Welcome to the 19th Annual Connection Summit at CES. I'm Jennifer Kent, Vice President of Research with Parks Associates. We are so pleased to be hosting this event today. Conversations all day long from the industry leaders, making it happen all across the connected home on some of the most critical conversations that are happening in this market. I happen to find a picture of the conversations that were happening 10 years ago, back in 2015. We love to hear what you're working on, what the big questions are, and really to see how this market has expanded and evolved. And a lot has happened over the past 10 years. Parks Associates research shows that the average American internet household has over 17 connected devices today, more than 2 times the amount of connected devices they had back in 2015. And the percentage of households that have at least one smart home device, not including smart speakers and smart displays. So think locks, lights, thermostats, door locks, garage door openers, plugs, power strips, smart appliances, 45%, up 5x from back in 2014. So a lot has happened. There are a lot of big questions for the industry leaders today, such as how do you serve an increasingly mainstream end user when you have 45% of households now having a smart home product? You're really actually looking at a different type of customer. How can consumer IoT business units operate profitably, perhaps within a larger, more traditional manufacturer? We see that a lot. What is my competitive edge in the AI arms race? We're talking today, this morning, jumping right into AI in the smart home. What does that mean for your strategic plans, for the competitive landscape? We're going to talk a lot about standards today. How do standards efforts unlock new opportunity and also new competition? What market segments are right for expansion? How do I leverage my assets to better serve other ecosystem players and not just that end user? We're going to be talking about a lot of that today across our different panels. We're also kicking off in about a month our big B2B industry research effort where we are very interested in what you're struggling with and what you're seeing as you're working on consumer IoT products. And we're going to release the results of that research at our Connections event in May. So if you want to participate in that research, it comes with a free pass to Connections. You can scan this QR code, and when we have that survey ready, we'll reach out to you to participate. So you can see today we are starting off with AI in the smart home, talking about applications and ethics. We're talking about profitability next at 10 o'clock. At the top of every hour, we're running into a new topic. Smart home standards and platforms at 11 o'clock. We'll have lunch, first come, first serve, in the room to the left. If you go out to the hallway to the left, a big thank you to ADT for sponsoring that lunch. We're back in the afternoon talking about energy, talking about multifamily markets, and also what's happening in home security. And we invite all of you to attend our VIP networking reception over at Treasure Island this evening. It is complimentary. You're all welcome to attend. We do ask that you RSVP so that we have a head count, and you can do that with this form at this QR code. So with that, I'd love to invite my panelists up to jump right into our first topic of the day, AI in the smart home, applications and ethics. Come on up and join me. And as they do that, I just want to set the scene. We have a lot to talk about today, so I'm just going to jump in and get running. There's a lot of possibility of what AI can really add to the connected home landscape. A lot of what we see in the smart home specifically is adding to better understanding of the context of an action or an event or a call for assistance. What is happening? Who is in the home? That gets to identity. Who is in the home? Is it a known person? Is it an unknown person? How do I authenticate myself for access into the home? Lost my slides, but that's okay. Also things like communication and communicating both between people and devices, and between the devices themselves. But our data also shows that 71% of consumers are concerned about society's ability to control and ethically ethically control and develop AI. And so what does that mean for everybody in the room? What does that mean for the smart home market? So I'm very excited to have all sorts of leaders in this space to really talk about the challenges, the opportunities, and how you're using AI today. I'd love to bring the slides up so that we can show everybody in the audience. Here we go. There we go. So we can see your beautiful pictures and everybody can see your names and your titles. So we have Arsham, who's the SVP of Product and Technology with Universal Electronics, Amalia, who's the head of strategic marketing with Intuition Robotics, Casey, the director of business development with Josh.ai, Paulus, who's the president of the Open Home Foundation, and Paul Williams, the global managing director for the home management business unit with the NICE Group. So I'd love to really start by diving in and asking each of you, as you sort of introduce yourselves and your organizations, to tell us, how are you using AI today? Arsham, you can start.
Good morning. Ooh, first day of the show. Hopefully everybody is ready and pumped. UEI designs, develops, and manufactures entertainment and smart home products with strong focus on climate control and energy management in more recent years. Now, AI fits throughout the full life cycle of a product company like ours. So from design and development, if you think about it, you can have any software engineer that's not using AI on a daily basis. You should probably reconsider that engineer and probably move on to somebody who can use the tools today better to develop faster, more efficiently, and with better quality. When you go into manufacturing, you certainly can apply AI to have much better yields, much better quality, and even fine-tune and calibrate things that previously were not even possible. So design and development is quite obvious. From DevOps perspective, our cloud servers today, part of our products is a software-only product that resides on hundreds of millions of connected entertainment devices in the homes today. We serve about 100 million households every single week. About 30% of these actually use the cloud services on a daily basis, and about 55% of them use AI-powered APIs from our servers to achieve certain functionality for personalization and optimizing the experiences. So we've taken everything from software side and hardware side, and we're putting it together in the next generation of our product development to deliver an on-device AI framework that can both protect the privacy and personalization, the privacy and security required in a home, but provide that personalization framework that a lot of the applications that we're focused on can actually benefit from. Everything from energy management around occupancy in a fully private fashion, and personalization based on proximity and movement throughout the home, guests coming and going, and rather than hoarding all this data on a central server, we actually allow your devices to get to know you through time, adapt to you, and adapt to your changes through your time. So we'll talk more about how we look at privacy and security in this fashion.
Yeah, fantastic. Context, personalization, presence, fantastic. Amalia, tell us a little bit more about Intuition and how you're using AI today.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled. So, as Jennifer said, I lead marketing for Intuition Robotics. Intuition Robotics is the creator of LEQ. LEQ is an AI companion built to live with older adults, help them on their health and wellness journey, help them live at home independently longer, help them live happier and healthier lives. LEQ is a non-humanoid robot. She's a tabletop device, and she's basically built on both AI and scripted conversations. But AI has really been a game changer for us in making LEQ a smarter, more connected companion. She's able to have much more in-depth conversations. We have an orchestrator that basically decides on each interaction whether she'll go to our own LLM, open source LLM, or a scripted conversation. And this allows her to personalize herself to each user, contextualize her interactions, and also build a memory for each user. So the longer she lives with someone, the smarter she becomes, the more in tune with their needs. She knows which interactions to initiate. I did not mention that as far as we know, LEQ is the only proactive, fully functional AI agent today. So she's not just prompt-based. She doesn't wait to be spoken to. She really initiates interactions, and we leverage AI hugely to be able to do that, and to be able to do that in a fashion that is non-obtrusive, that drives to action, that helps us realize our goals that are obviously aligned with goals to help users live happier, healthier lives. So, for example, if we know that a user didn't sleep very well, and LEQ asks in the morning, "Hi, how are you, Jennifer? How did you sleep today?" And if you say, "Oh, I didn't have a great night," so she'll remember that, and maybe around 5 or 6, she'll ask you, maybe you want to have some breathing exercises before you go to sleep, or maybe a short meditation session. And if you'll agree, she'll ask you the next day. So she's really sort of ongoing relationship conversation. "How do you sleep?" And if you said, "Oh, I was better tonight," so she'll initiate the same kind of interaction next evening. If it doesn't work, maybe she'll ask you in the morning if you want to do a short yoga session, or maybe she'll suggest to call your doctor, or call your daughter, or call your son, or a different loved one to see whether they can help. So we really do leverage AI to also be able to have those interactions, but to also have a much more natural and wide and deep conversation. So LEQ can talk with the users about the meaning of life. She can interpret their dreams. She can talk to them about childhood memories. She can talk to them about sporting events, historic events, or really everything and anything.
Yeah, so it really sounds like when we talk about the various forms or, subcategories of AI, you're already really leaning into that creative, generative layer of AI with your LEQ.
Yes, combined with her very unique character.
Absolutely. Okay, Casey, tell us, Josh.ai, it's right in the name. For those of in the crowd who might not be familiar with what you do, right? Tell us all the layers of how you're leveraging AI and some of your more recent announcements of what the next generation looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, everybody. Thank you to Parks Associates and everybody for putting this on, and also for all of you for waking up with us this morning for the first one of these. My name is Casey Levy-Tulloch, Director of Business Development at Josh.ai. The way that I would put Josh in a nutshell is that we are your smart home control system in the era of AI. We offer all of your traditional interfaces, a mobile app, a touchscreen, universal remote controls. We also offer a couple different far-field microphone products, which leverage AI throughout the process. But it doesn't just start there with the user experience and ultimately the different interfaces that you use in the smart home to talk to your connected devices. We start by leveraging AI in the deployment process, and we'll probably get into that a little bit more later, but basically making the smart home simpler, not only to interact with, but also to commission, set up, ultimately personalize and customize with natural scenes, which I would say are maybe one of the most powerful transformative aspects of the smart home is creating a good morning or a good night scene. We have a special tool that we use called our natural language scene builder. It's an extension of our natural language processing with voice, where you can basically dictate what you'd like that activation to be. You want to dim your lights in the bedroom, open the shades on the second floor, listen to your favorite playlist. You can simply dictate that to Josh. You, of course, could program it or configure it as well. But we're removing the barriers of complexity, ultimately for the best custom and most personalized experiences in the smart home. In addition to that, we are not just a smart home control system. We also offer an intelligent assistant that we call Josh.GPT. We launched Josh.GPT a couple summers ago and basically built our own LLM on top of our core stack of natural language processing in the home. Josh.GPT basically can answer any sort of assistant type question or query that you would have. So you want a recipe while you're cooking, you want travel recommendations for your upcoming Vegas trip, whatever it may be, Josh.GPT is your intelligent assistant that we essentially can send those commands off to for a more engaging, personalized experience as well. But yeah, we'll get into much more later, but that's a quick intro.
So quick follow-up there. Can you share anything about what people are asking most? What are they looking to know or be assisted with Josh.GPT?
Yeah, Josh.GPT, I'd say recipes are really high up there. Naturally, you're cooking in your kitchen, your hands are busy, so asking how many tablespoons are in this recipe, or how do I make chocolate chip cookies, or something like that. But we actually just published our top 10 voice commands of 2024, and the top 10 were all device commands to the home. So turn on the lights, open, close the shades, thermostat commands, music, just kind of ranging across your different devices and that ecosystem that is continuing to expand in the home as well.
Okay, fantastic. And the creating of routines is really a big one. We did some research in the past year around how many households are actually creating automations and routines between devices to get more to that whole home vision and of how a smart home can function. And just 40% of smart home device owners today are actually coordinating their devices in some way. There's still a lot of friction in trying to figure out how to make that happen. Paulus, tell us more about the Open Home Foundation.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Paulus Schoutsen. I'm the president of the Open Home Foundation. We're better known for our work on Home Assistant. Home Assistant is a smart home platform that probably all the engineers in your company are always talking about. It's a very big platform, one of the most active open source projects in the world, with it has a big focus on local control and privacy. So everybody can always run it at home, and we believe that users, they own their data, they can do with it what they want. So when it comes to AI, we've been very early adopters, giving AI hooks into Home Assistant, let it read out information, read out historical data, control devices. We believe that right now our biggest use case that we see users actually use it for is voice, because it's just nice that if you talk to your voice assistant, AI will make sure that it always understands what you're trying. And before it was like you need to say exactly the way Google planned for you to control your lights. Now you can be a bit more ambiguous. For example, the other day I said, I'm coming out of the shower, get my room ready, and it closed my blinds and turned on my light without me saying anything of like that kind of thing. And so making sure that voice commands are always successful, that's like a big hit. My son personally is like querying Pokemon stuff all the time with AI, which is also very good for. But we see actually a way bigger role for AI. We've already exposed it to, for example, our automation engine. So people will write automations, gather some events that are happening in the house, and then ask an AI, is this a suspicious event? And for example, if a door is opening at night, and you know that people are sleeping, the lights are off, that's suspicious. Maybe we should wake up the homeowner. And so just getting from the AI a simple yes, no, and then your automation can continue, that's been a big hit as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think where you guys sit is so interesting just by the nature of kind of the open project that you're working with. You're dealing a lot with innovators who really know what they want, out of the smart home. How does that influence what they're asking for and when it comes to AI capabilities?
Well, the main thing they always ask for is, can we have all the data? And we're like, yes, here is all the data. But it also means that, for example, there's model context protocol, which is a way of AI agents to talk to other systems, which is like something that Anthropic just standardized. Well, we've been adopting that, and we make sure that when now people writing agents, which is going to be the big thing, I think in 2025, they can talk to a Home Assistant, integrate that into whatever the agent is doing. I don't believe Home Assistant is going to be the one running your agents, just because there's so much more in your life, right? We are not logged into your work Slack, nor do I want to be Home Assistant have access to your work Slack, but maybe you want your AI agent to integrate that part of data as well. But yeah, we see there's just so much stuff happening all the time, and basically Home Assistant, because it's the only platform that is fully open, people are just fully getting all the data out and playing with it. We see a lot of cool stuff happening.
Fantastic. Okay, Paul, tell us about Nice Group and where you guys are really, placing your bets and pulling in the power of AI.
You bet. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me again. I love these events. They're fantastic. My name is Paul Williams. I'm the global managing director for home management at Nice. And what that means is I have global responsibility for anything to do with smart home security and access control. We manufacture smart home solutions, everything from lighting control to HVAC, audio, video, creature feature functions, including security systems to keep your home safe and secure at the same time too. So we're leveraging AI in several different ways right now with more coming into the future. We just released our new voice platform, which allows for natural voice control over the home and all the functions within the home that can be controlled with our solution. Really on two big foundational issues. First one was natural language, to be able to just not have to say a command word and then remember exactly what that light was called over there, because it won't listen to me unless I manage the exact name or say the exact name. We're intelligent. We know you're in the room. You say, turn the lights on. We figure it's the lights in those room. So very contextual based, but also part of that is then making sure that it's safe and secure. So the data itself belongs to the consumer. We're not storing any personal information in the cloud. We're not monetizing the information that's in the cloud. That's very important to us, is to make sure that we're providing a great customer experience with that voice solution. So that's the first way. Second way is we have on our touch panels. So touch panels is one of the things that we provide to the homeowners. Touch panels also have facial recognition, and what we're able to do is personalization. So one of the age-old problems, at least in this, what I'll call the luxury or premium smart home solution space, is that you get one size fits all in a lot of homes. So the user interface is the same for no matter who in the home needs to interact with it. And sometimes that's okay, but in a lot of cases it's not, because it means extra key clicks, or I have to go through a different menu, or it doesn't even make any sense to me at all. And what we're able to do is, with facial recognition, make it very personalized. So as a consumer walks up, if one person in the home walks up, it recognizes them, they get their user experience. So if I want buttons that are just for my playlist or from the lighting or whatever it is I'm controlling, I see those. Next person walks up, can be 10 seconds later, they get a completely, or can get a completely different user interface that's really personalized for that consumer. And so that way we're having a personalized experience for all the people that live in the home, not just one who usually in the past has been the one that sets it and everybody else just has to live with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about the facial recognition point, because this gets in a little bit to consumer acceptance of some of the really advanced technologies that are being built, and AI specifically. There's this push-pull of the benefits, that we all see of developing and pulling in AI to drive that next feature set. But are we getting ahead of the consumer, and where's consumer comfort? Is there anything you could share on the facial recognition part that you talked about? I mean, you're definitely solving some friction points and some pain points and getting to that personalization. What do you think consumer openness is?
So it varies, and we're still on that, I would say, on that adoption curve that's there right now. What we see is that people will put touch panels in rooms in their home, and there's some rooms where they're not going to be activated at all. And that's one of the options we give the consumer. They can turn on or off that facial recognition. So we're seeing in open spaces that they're more readily acceptable to have that in place. Where you don't want it's your bedroom, because in bathrooms, I don't trust it, right? I don't want to make sure that it's not there's not a camera that somewhere can be found on the web or found in the cloud somewhere. And so we're seeing that acceptance, though, is actually increasing, though. And so people are starting to see the benefit. It's much akin to if we take mobile phones, right? Mobile phones, many of us have opened up huge gaps in our own privacy by having mobile devices in our pockets right now. We've all accepted that the benefit that it gives us is higher than the potential deficit of having that information potentially out there. And so we make those trade-offs. And I think consumers are starting to get to that point. We're not quite there to the tipping point, I would say, yet, but we're in that curve.
Yeah. And Amalia, I'd love to go to you here too, because you're working directly with older consumers who tend to be some of the least accepting of new technology broadly, though we very much believe that seniors do use technology, and they tell us all the time that they do, but tend to be later acceptors, right? With high concerns about things like AI, and here you have a company that's leaning into it. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've learned about that relationship and how you foster that consumer acceptance?
Sure. So to your point, older adults definitely use technology, but it needs to be built with them in mind. I mean, they have different needs, they have different knowledge gaps, and when you build something that's really simple and easy to use, they use it. I mean, and I think when we market directly to older adults, because we have different audiences, we don't lean necessarily into the AI, into the innovation, but we lean into what they have to gain living with LEQ. So we talk about all the different things that they can do with her. We talk about the weekly bingo nights, which allow them to interact with other older adults across the country and play live bingo. We talk about all the health and wellness features and the ability to really connect with family members that aren't necessarily near them. And sometimes they have trouble using FaceTime or using Zoom, and with LEQ it's just so much easier. All they need to do is give her a voice command, tell her, LEQ, let's call Amalia, and then she just does that for them. So we see 56% of the users actually saying they feel more connected to the outside world ever since they've been living with LEQ. So I think, first of all, when they see other older adults like them in our marketing material, in our ads, it does sort of foster a sense of security. And we just make it very relatable and very easy to understand the benefit without talking about the technology. For sure, there are issues and concerns about privacy, but we're super transparent. We always reassure them that we don't use any personalized data to train our models. We completely anonymize the data. Everything that we use on-premise to sort of personalize the experience stays on-premise. It doesn't train our models. So I think we try to be very transparent. We have an AI code of ethics that we share with all of our users, all of our partners, and hopefully that does ease a lot of the concerns.
Yeah, okay. So I'd love to actually talk more about the challenges of AI, maybe even from a product development standpoint. There's just the costs, to start with when you decide that you want to pull in some of these features, and especially as we get to generative AI and the compute power it takes. There's big competitive shifts in the market, cybersecurity vulnerabilities, intellectual property risks associated with AI, uncertain regulatory environment for sure. Arsham, and then Casey, I'd love to go to you. If you could talk a little bit about what are some of the biggest challenges as you're developing your new framework you were talking about, right, in AI for the business.
So how you look at the financial side really has to do with the stage of the company. There are companies that are quite okay playing the loss leader game. All they need are the numbers, and you can buy up the market and then deliver the value at a later point. Unfortunately, not every company has that benefit. So we have to measure the value of the problem that we're solving versus the cost on an ongoing basis. So we deliberately pick which AI models do we move to the cloud, and do we incur the recurring costs because there's a recurring value being generated, and which do we need to actually start innovating on the hardware side so that we can slowly shift smaller inference engines to the edge that will have access to a lot more data, by the way. The amount of data that you can process on the edge in real time doesn't even come close to what you can shift to the cloud. So the reliability and the access to the data on the edge is a lot more. Obviously, your models are much simpler. So as long as you can carve out what problems do you solve on the edge, what problems do you solve on the server side, then you can balance out your front-up cost on a product, and then the recurring cost versus the value that's going to be generated on the other side. So for us, it has to do with true value generation, not simply writing the buzzword. Believe it or not, actually using the term AI doesn't help your product sell better with the consumers. It does help your stock sell better with the analysts, but the consumer actually gets turned off.
Yeah. Is for UEI, when you think about the challenges in AI development, for instance, today, is cost the number one challenge, or is there something else? Up at night.
So when our scope is typically residential environments, either residential or light commercial. We do believe that users' attention will derive who and which brands and which ecosystems will have access to the largest amount of data, and they will have a better opportunity to build a far better model than we ever could for a generalized home automation. So we focus on building out experts in a multi-assistant environment, experts that can achieve specific tasks so well that even a generalized assistant in the home will still rely on them for completing a specific task, from onboarding to predictive maintenance to ongoing troubleshooting to personalization and targeting in a private fashion, ... So we focus on very specific use cases. We try to be the best at those, imagining how we need to either function as an independent product in the home or connect to the rest of the ecosystem. So useful as a standalone product and far better in an ecosystem that works with other assistants.
Okay. Josh, what are the challenges that you're up against in all the development that you're doing with AI right now?
Yeah, well, there's, Casey, Josh. I respond to both.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine.
Casey at Josh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You can call me Josh. So, yeah, the cost associated with AI, it's really interesting because we pay our cell phone bill, we pay our cable bill, we pay these monthly recurring fees for our services. However, the smart home hasn't really done a great job of implementing that yet. And we have at Josh, we've built a successful business model with a hardware sale, a software sale, and we offer monthly, annual, 5-year, and lifetime plans. And we've modeled out what that profitability is, what makes sense for us as a business, given our users and all that good stuff. But it is important to note for a consumer, and just to kind of take a step back as well, you look at big tech out there, these are really affordable microphones or other devices on a shelf that can listen to you and execute commands in your home. However, why is this device $50 or $25? And it's because they're making money in another way, not necessarily by charging you for the experience. So for us, we are very conscious of all the different services that we use, whether it's the speech-to-text process, the speech recognition platforms, the LLMs, and there's various services that we use to facilitate the AI that Josh offers all of our clients. And by modeling that out, it's a fun math equation, essentially, to figure out as we reach economies of scale, how these costs decrease, but it's a non-zero cost. I think that's an important thing for consumers to realize, is that this experience is not just a la carte, or it's not a free one that comes with this hardware. In addition to that, just I'd say that pretty much covers it as far as the software cost.
Yeah, it's kind of the story of the smart home of trying to figure out what consumers will pay for on an ongoing basis to cover the connectivity costs, and now really it's the intelligence costs, as well. Some rumors that there's maybe some subscription coming from some of the big, giants, and if so, perhaps training consumers to think a little bit differently about what that premium tier that you pay for looks like, could be interesting on the competitive landscape too, which, Paulus, I'd love to kind of get your thoughts on of how AI and generative AI in particular kind of redefine the competitive landscape and where smaller players or open players, how you kind of compete in that environment.
Well, I think it has completely changed it, right? Where 5 years ago, it was like, how can we ever compete with Google and Amazon on their AI stuff? Because we can only access it through the voice assistants that they sell us. And now we can just pick up an API and we're better than the voice assistants of 5 years ago. Now, because of that, it also is more interesting and important to build on top of it, because everybody has access to the same LLMs, right? We have the same AI, so how do you differentiate? And so I think that the way we're competing has to change, where everybody will be able to answer questions about the world or your recipes or these things, because, well, an LLM can just do that if you pay for the biggest models. And so it will be really important, what is the user experience that we can build on top of it? How can you make sure that it is tuned to the user? How can you use their local habits and integrate it into how they use the platform? And I think that's going to be way more important, but until now it was more about like, how do we even get voice in a house? Or like, it was very hard to compete. And so, yeah, we're going to compete at a different level.
Okay, so we only have about 5 minutes left. There's one question we're getting asked actually quite a bit at this kind of stage of the game, which is it's a little bit of a wild west when it comes to the regulatory landscape for AI right now, but expectations, that there could be more coming down the pipe. And I'm really interested to understand how what you really have your eye on and how you're thinking about potential regulations? Are you looking more at regulations around data privacy and security, or intellectual property concerns, or bias and discrimination? There are all sorts of kind of angles of AI development that's happening right now that are kind of raising the attention of regulators. So maybe Paul and then Arsham, if you have anything that you can comment about how you operate in this uncertain regulatory environment and what you're really preparing for.
Yeah, so there's, as you mentioned, it's kind of the Wild West right now, at least in certain parts of the world, North America for sure. You go to Europe, Europeans in the audience. So GDPR has been in place for some time. I think it's a good model, and I think it's one of the things we're looking at to say, what would the world look like if it was GDPR? And GDPR, I think, takes a very conservative view of making sure that we're protecting users' data. And that also extends into how are models being trained? What sources are you using to train those models? There's been a lot of that come up recently where a lot of these models are being trained by just pulling images and other things off the internet, which could and most likely are violating privacy laws already. And so we want to make sure we're not doing that. We're also making sure that the user's privacy is secure. But a big part of that is that the consumer owns that data. And a big part of GDPR and a big part of what we're seeing, and what I think we're going to continue to see in North America, is that I, as a consumer, have the right to tell you, the person storing that data, that I don't want you to store it. First of all, I want to understand that you have to be explicit on how you're using that data, what you're using it for, and how you plan to use it, that I am aware of before I then volunteer that information to you. And then secondly, I have the ability to not only take it, but I can also transport it. It has to be provided in a way that can bring down in code that I could transport that same data to somebody else's model. And I think it's a good way to be thinking about what's happening right now. We are seeing some states, Illinois has probably got the biggest facial recognition laws that are on the books today. There's personal damages that you can sue for if your images are used in the wrong ways. California, Texas, Washington all have some laws a little less stringent than Illinois, but we continue to watch the landscape. I'm confident that we will see, certainly in the next few years, something happen in the United States and North America as a whole that kind of tightens that up a little bit. And I think it's necessary because I think that consumers are expecting to have some control over this experience, and they don't want it to be the Wild West.
Yeah, fantastic. Arsham, did you want to add there?
On the privacy side, GDPR is a great example. When we try to go after personalization, for example, we had to really lean on the edge to deliver majority of the personalization experiences with minimal dependency on the backend services, which are only temporal and they just disappear as soon as you use the service. This is how we can ship everywhere. But when I look at AI specifically, a lot of the talk around regulation is targeting last year's problem, not really what we're designing today. They are talking about some of the applications. The most interesting that we would like to see is when you think about an AI-enabled product that goes out of service and you don't update and maintain anymore. It's not similar to a utility, a product that had a fixed function. It will continue doing what it used to. An AI product that goes without service can be dangerous. So that is one of the biggest issues that we are looking forward to seeing an outcome, which will actually materially change how we serve our connected products in the long run.
Okay. All right, we have just a few minutes left, so I'd love to ask Amalia, Casey, and Paulus if you guys had advice for those in the crowd that are working on their own solutions, trying to keep up with the pace of innovation, which doesn't ever slow down, but somehow seems even more accelerated than normal. What advice do you have as they consider how AI can maybe transform their products, their businesses, and they think about, what's next for them?
So what we always say is that in order to really create an impact in a person's lives and really create a long-lasting relationship, and obviously retention based on that as well, it's important for the AI to be proactive. If you think about the relationships in our lives, they're not one way. They're not prompt-based. We don't just wait for a friend to call us and ask how we are, do we want to meet? We wouldn't be very good friends doing that. So if we want to create AIs that don't replace human relationships, but create sort of a new category of relationships, maybe sort of like a pet, we need to have an AI that's able to interact and initiate interactions and be proactive about it and really anticipate what the user needs.
Okay, great. Casey?
Just to add on top of that, or maybe put it a different way, is what problem is this AI solving in a unique or special way? Because at Josh, our founders, the vision was there's not an AI, and this is before any other voice assistant was out as well, but our founding mission was there's no smart home assistant with the contextual awareness, the natural language, the conversational understanding of what does it's too dark in here mean, or I'm cold, and being able to adjust your lights, your thermostat. And since then, we've built a lot more on top of that in terms of the device functionality integrations, the intelligent assistants as well. But from a competition standpoint, AI is here. It's definitely blown up, and now it's the hot buzzword, and everybody's trying to figure out how to use it. But how do you use it in an impactful way that creates value for your business? Where I think we also just in talking about AI being a loss leader for some larger companies. If you're a smaller company, you can't really afford for it to be a loss leader, or else you're not going to be around too long. So how are you creating this experience that is creating retention, creating memorable experiences or utility that people want to continue to pay for?
Okay, great. And Paulus, last word.
Yeah, I think that if you're building AI, then make sure that LLMs are not the only AI. I mean, you're talking about cost, and actually, LLMs are the most expensive AI you can use. You can already achieve so much just by doing old school machine learning, statistical analysis, looking at the data, and there's so much stuff you can actually run locally as well that you don't need a big GPU for to run models. And so don't think that generative AI is the only AI tool in your toolbox. There's many, many tools.
Okay, fantastic. Well, please join me in thanking our kickoff panel today, sharing their insight.